Alright, it's your boy GM Slickdeezy back for another review. Before we get into that, you already know what to do. Like, click, subscribe, do all that, and we're going to get it popping. Alright, movie we're going to check out today. It's another Netflix joint. It's called The Old Guard. And trust me, there will be spoilers in this one, so just letting you know ahead of time. Alright, so The Old Guard is basically about four undying warriors who secretly protected humanity for centuries that become targeted for their mysterious powers just as they discover a new immortal. Now, from what I hear, it's based off of books which have animated style cover to it, as you can see right here. You know where I'm not exactly sure, but let's get back to the review. So we have our stars in the movie: Joey, Nikki, Booker, and Andy. And Nilly comes later on, but you know she's pretty much most of the movie too. So as you can see, Andy is pretty much stressed out, but she's around her crew, Nikki, Joe, and Booker. But you can tell she's been through some things, and we don't really know exactly why yet. And at this point, you just think to yourself, it's just a regular, mission movie where they're in, I think they're in Morocco first. So yeah, so that's what happens there. All right, so at this point now, they're having conversations with this guy named Mr. Copley, who's a former CIA agent. So basically, he tells her about this mission about some people have kidnapped some kids. And he comes to them because they figured they're the best for the job to do it. And that's basically what his position, his role is for the time being. But really, there's no kids to be had, but I'll explain that later. So, of course, when they try to save these kids and get to the situation, yeah, it turns out to be one big setup. So then, take a guess at what happens. Yeah, it was basically an ambush. They end up getting shot up. You know what I'm saying? Dudes coming out from all the corridors. They end up getting blazed. Like, they're pretty much done, deal done. You're like, wow, is this the end of our heroes? They're already dead early? Yeah, see, look at that. They're dead. Clear cut. The end, right? That's what we thought. Yeah, they end up getting back up because apparently they're immortals. You know what I'm saying? They the blood and the bullets, they start retracting from their body or whatever like that, and they can re-heal and regenerate. So apparently they're immortals. So it's like, okay, this takes a turn for the story, and they end up killing the police officer or whatever like that. But at that point, then it jumps to another frame where they're just trying to get the hell up out of there because somebody knows their secret, especially the dude Copley, whatever, and they're trying to keep that under wraps for as long as possible. And here on the other side of Afghanistan, we have another protagonist named Nellie, and Nile, or whatever you want to call her. But anyway, her situation is she's in the military, and then something happens. She's in a situation where they try to catch somebody. She ends up getting slit, her throat slit or whatever, and then she ends up surviving the encounter somehow. So yeah, she thought she was completely dead, and she ends up surviving the encounter, which lets us know as the audience is like, yeah, she's an immortal too, but she doesn't really know why or how or what the situation or circumstances is for this to even happen. So yeah. All right, so our four protagonists are now having dreams about this girl, because I guess that's what their powers do. They can connect with other immortals or whatever. So now instead of escaping, now she's planning on retrieving Nile in hopes of joining their group so they could stop whoever's, trying to get to their situation. Okay, so back to when our heroes got set up in the cave. There were actually cameras in the cave too, so that information was given to Copley because clearly it was, they died and came back to life, and pretty much this is the real protagonist of the evil villain of the whole story. Here's this guy. He's a billionaire. I guess this guy named Merrick, and Copley actually works for him, and his mission is basically to capture these immortals and see what their power is, and to be able to extract it so he can give it to people across the world, to have this cure to, be able to live longer, typical stuff like that. The thing is, Copley is trying to do it for the world, but I think Merrick is doing it just to benefit him and his crew. So, yeah. All right, so while all this is going on, Niall meets up with Andy. You know, she's very hesitant to go along with her, but eventually she goes along with her, and then they all meet up at this spot in France. Because they traveled from, I guess, from Morocco to Afghanistan to France. They got this spot that nobody's been in for like 50 years or whatever, and they all meet up there. Yeah, and at this point, they're talking about how long they've been around, and obviously Andy's the oldest, and they've basically been around for centuries. You know what I mean? Yeah, they talk about how they've been around since like World War II, the Crusades, like all the way back to Viking history. You know what I'm saying? It's been like centuries of them constantly going through time spans or whatever. And of course, Andy, she's feeling at this point like humanity can't be saved because she's seen too much. You know what I mean? Just going through the centuries. And then, you know, you can understand why her teammates are like, nah, you still want to have hope, but you understand why they don't. You know what I mean? So it's living through that type of thing. So in all honesty, they don't really know why they're immortal because it tells them they flat out tell you they don't know why they're immortal or how they got in this position at this time, and they do establish that eventually like immortals don't even live forever because they explained about this one kid that died while she was living back then in her time. And yeah. Now there was this other lady that used to fight with her side by side back in the day. Her name was Quinn. You know what I'm saying? And they ended up getting eventually they ended up getting caught by the reserves or whatever. All right, so the key is they're immortals, but they don't have ridiculous special powers or anything like that. They're just able to live longer. So when they got captured, well, her and Andy got captured back then. The story behind Quinn is that they both were kidded. They tried to burn them at the stake, do all this other stuff because they thought they were basically witchcraft. They were practicing witchcraft and stuff. So her story is they ended up taking Quinn by herself. They put her in this iron casting and sent her into the middle of the ocean. And basically because she can't die, she dies and then comes back to life. She's been at the bottom of the ocean for like 500 years. And Andy was on a search to search for her, but they couldn't even, she just stopped searching for her after a certain time. I'm like, God damn, that shit is brutal. So, you know, it's a lot more to this movie. I won't spoil the rest of it anymore. You know what I'm saying? I gave you enough tidbits on it. But basically, it's a pretty good movie. Like, if at first I thought it was going to start, I didn't know how it was going to start. I just thought it was going to be a typical movie. Then all of a sudden, we found out about immortals and other stuff going on and how far back they've lived for centuries and all those other things. But, yeah, all in all, it's a pretty good movie. You know what I'm saying? It's some science fiction for you. And like I said, like, click, subscribe if you like the video, you know what I'm saying? And basically, that's the old guard. And oh, the ending, yeah. The ending's kind of crazy. I ain't gonna spoil the ending for you, you know what I'm saying? But I guarantee you there should be a part 2 after this. So yeah, it definitely should be a sequel. So there you go. It's your boy Mr. Ski, and I'm out.